hardware installation for this is pretty straightforward, but there's a few details I want to go over just so that you can avoid some mistakes. First of all, the hinges that I specified are small, and that's why I chose them. There are other hinges available from a variety of companies that are larger. I thought these were too bulky. They're quite a bit wider, probably a 1/16 of an inch wider, longer. I just thought they looked a little dominating. But the nice thing about these other hinges is that they're pre-drilled and countersunk. The ones that I call out in the plan are not. They come like this, undrilled. And so if you're going to use these same hinges, you're going to need to make sure that you have metal drilling bits. Brass is really easy to drill through. In fact, I think you could use your wood bits for it. But you definitely don't want to use the brad point bits. In any case, get a metal bit that's the width of the screw that you use to attach these, and therein lies an interesting dilemma. I used, for the screws that go into the door itself, I used a 5/8 inch long number 6, and for the screws that go into the side, because the side is quite narrow, I used just a 1/2 inch number 6. And you can get those from Fastenal. I'll put the part number in the plans. And so get yourself a drill bit that's wider than the shank of the screw, and go ahead and drill. I think in this case, so you can't see it here, but I used 3 holes in a staggered pattern. So here, here, and here on each leaf. So once you've drilled the holes on each of the leaf, then you use this countersink bit. And on the inside, because remember this is opening up and you're screwing in here, and then this closes together. So this is the wood surface and this is the wood surface. You're going to want to countersink these so that the screw heads are flat with these leaves. There's a lot of, I guess I use these Weldon countersink bits. This is CS-8SH. 82 degree C sink. These things they work pretty good for metal, these Weldon countersink bits. So I guess there's different choices, but I like these for brass. The wood countersink bits tend to give me chatter on the brass surface, and those Weldons don't. So that's the first thing you want to know. The second thing you want to know is that when you install the lock set itself, the way I went about it is in the front, I centered the escutcheon. That's where I started. But don't drill a hole for the escutcheon at that point. What you want to do is, once you center the escutcheon, sort of mark out on the edge here where the round diameter of the key is going to go through. So just put a mark there and carry it around, and then notice that the lock set itself sits up from that mark. So what you want to do is, inside the lock there's a mate for this open portion of the key. There's a little pin, and you just want to make sure that that pin is sitting where it should be with respect to the escutcheon. So once you've got that, now you know where your lock is going to get set. So lay your lock on there, scribe around it, and the lock actually has 2 different depths on it. You'll see it once you get it. And you're going to want to chop out basically 2 sets of mortises. One that's fairly deep for the center portion of the lock, and then another one that's shallow for the edge. And lay your lock in there, and then once that lock is in there, then you will know, you can actually push down on the lock to give yourself a little indent in the back, and now you can drill a hole through that's going to line up with the center portion of this round area of the escutcheon. And once you've got that, now you can actually put the escutcheon in place, screw the lock in place, and now start laying out how you're going to cut out for the key itself. So I pretty much just use a drill bit to drill out the round portion, and then I just use a small chisel to take out for the keyed portion of the lock. So that's really the sequence for installing the lock and the escutcheon plate. the thing you don't want to do is like center the escutcheon plate left to right on the stile and then drill a hole and then find out, oh crap, I got to move my lock way over, or I got to move the escutcheon way over because the lock isn't going to be flush with this stile. So you really want to start with the lock. You just need to get the height right so that your escutcheon's not real low or real high on the door. Then so once you've got that done, now this particular escutcheon is the one that I have called out in the plan. Is kind of funky in that it's not flat on the back of it, and so you can't just lay it on the stile and nail it in place. You have to actually take a chisel or a gouge and kind of carve out for this recessed area. And I guess I can pull this off. All right. So now at that point, now you can see this. There's some depth below the back of this. Why they did that is beyond me, but that's probably the way the original was. So you need to carve. You need to kind of lay it in place, trace it out with a pencil, and carve out of the stile for that to fit into. And then you're home free with this. The drawer pulls are pretty easy. The screws on them are shallow enough that they won't go all the way through. And so just make sure when you're drilling the pilot holes you don't punch through the back of the drawer. As far as installing the hinges, I started by mortising out the door itself. I started by mortising out the hinge area of the door. And then with the hinges screwed to the door, I brought the door over to the case and just marked the top and bottom of each hinge against the case side. Then I took the door away and just used my chisels to chisel out the area, the mortise area for the hinges, and I didn't go all the way back to the back of my rabbet. I basically went back about 1/8 of an inch away from it, laid the door in place, figured out how much proud of the case side my door was, and then just kind of incrementally removed more and more material towards the back of the rabbet until this door surface sat exactly flush with my case side. Did the same thing when I was cutting in the mortise for the lock mechanism out here. In fact, I'll turn this around so you can see it. As I was chopping this area out, I started towards the back and basically just worked my way towards the case front, incrementally checking the door to see if it would shut. And if it wouldn't shut, I brought the mortise out a little bit further and a little bit further until I could feel that mechanism start to catch. What you don't want to do is have the door, lock and be proud of the side by 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch. You want that locks, you want that door to be flush with the side. So just take your time when you're cutting in these mortises to make sure you get them at the right depth for the various components. It's not rocket science at all, but you want to think it through because it's awfully easy to make a real quick mistake. That's it for hardware installation.